Now, there's been extensive speculation, as we've seen, on the causes of autism, and a team of researchers in New York has just announced the discovery of a genetic disruption in the brain that may stop it from working properly. Dr. Eli Hatchwell is part of that team and a human geneticist at Stony Brook University in Long Island, New York. Thank you, Doctor, for talking with us.
Hello.
Just explain to us how big a breakthrough this is, and could it be the answer for a lot of autistic children now?
Our work shows that the gene which is called contactin-4 or CNTN4 may be responsible for up to 2% of cases of autism. What we really would like to explain to people involved in the field, particularly to parents, is that our belief is that autism is a real mix of many different conditions, and we predict that when all the genetic studies have been completed, there will be well over 100 different genetic causes for autism. Now, the cause that we have recently found and described is important and will be important to a small percentage of autism, but it by no means will explain all cases. And the real take-home message that we want to get across to people is that there will never be a single cause found that explains all of autism. To look for a single cause is, in our opinion, a mistake. And the only way to make progress in this field is to analyze each child individually and look for genetic changes in that child as being potentially the cause of autism in that child, or in a very small percentage of cases.
Interesting. All right, so you're pointing out there's never one single cause here, but you seem to be directing it mostly at genetics here. Are we talking about any sort of environmental impact, perhaps?
Yes, I think it's very difficult to exclude the possibility that there are environmental causes for autism, but they're much harder to study than genetic causes. And in my opinion, the best way to proceed is to look for all the genetic causes that one can in autism, and then when those genetic causes have been removed from the equation, the children that are left over who do not have any of those genetic causes are then candidates for possible environmental triggers. So one of the breakthroughs of our study, and one of the again messages that we're trying to get across, is that the way we approach the genetics of autism, which is an approach that is applicable to any complex disorder, including mental illness and various other complex disorders, is that instead of lumping all patients with the same diagnosis together into one study, into one bag, we look at each individual separately. And that way we are much more successful in identifying causes in individuals.
So does your discovery take us anywhere in the direction of finding some sort of treatment here, some sort of way of reversing autism, perhaps?
Well, that's a very good question. It's always been my belief that without a deep understanding of the causes of a disease, there is absolutely no hope for a specific treatment. That's not to say that there aren't treatments that are more general, and we're all aware of the educational interventions that can be very helpful in autism. But from a specific point of view, and from the point of view of 21st century medicine, it's absolutely vital to understand the genetic basis or the biological basis of disease before specific treatments can be investigated, including potential drug therapy.
And Doctor, we are nearly out of time, but I do want to ask you one more question. We have seen these instances where all of the children in one family have been autistic. What does that tell you exactly?
Well, that's a very good question, and I think the answer varies from family to family. There are certain situations where a parent who is, to all intents and purposes, normal may actually carry a genetic mutation, and that mutation or that genetic change can be transmitted to their children, who then end up being affected with autism. So one of the other important things that we try and get across is that there is no such thing as genetic determinism. Having a gene mutation or a genetic change does not guarantee that the disease associated with that will always develop. There are individuals who have these genetic changes but are normal, escape the effects of these genetic mutations, but their children may not escape the effects of these mutations.
All right, Dr. Eli Hatchwell, thank you so much for sharing your discovery with us. Appreciate it.
Pleasure.
Well, coming up a little later in the show, we'll look at a woman who proves that people with autism can function in society. And tune in later for an hour-long special, We Have Autism. It's one part of our expanded coverage, focusing on the realities faced by families touched by the disorder and the many angles of this medical mystery. That airs at the time shown there on your screen, right here on CNN. Well, turning to business news now, an Asian stock market soared as investors began to speculate the worst effects of the credit crisis may be working themselves out. Strong support for a share offer by investment bank Lehman Brothers after encouragement to holders of financial stocks. In Tokyo, the Nikkei 225